Israel launches fresh airstrikes on Syria, this time targeting western and central provinces of Tartus and Hama. Syria's military says its air defenses intercepted some of the missiles. The attack left 3 Syrian army personnel injured and some material damage. Israel frequently carries out aerial attacks on Syria. Damascus says it reserves the right to respond. It has repeatedly complained to the United Nations, urging the international body to take action against Tel Aviv's aggression. Peter Ford is the former British ambassador to Syria, joining us live from the British city of Manchester. Peter, welcome. These Israeli bombing raids have increased since the Syrian government got the upper hand against foreign-backed militants and terrorists. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think you have to see these Israeli raids more as part of their undeclared war on Iran than on very weak Syria. The Israelis say that what they're targeting in Syria are Iranian bases. Well, Iran has every right to be present in Syria and to provide aid in any form, civil or military, requested by the legitimate Syrian government. Therefore, these attacks have no foundation in law or ethics. But we have to interpret them more in the context of Iran Israel relations than Israel-Syria. Syria represents absolutely no threat or potential threat to Israel, but the Israelis are fearful of Iran, which is a strong regional power. And I think what's happening here is that the Israelis have seen how Iran is improving regional relations. Just days ago, an agreement was reached in China with Chinese mediation between Saudi Arabia and Iran to reestablish relations. Israel is not happy about this. Anything that makes Iran stronger, they think, weakens Israel. Therefore, I would interpret the timing of this latest raid in that context. It's the Israelis signaling that even if Iran thinks it's making progress on one front, Israel can still strike Iran on another front.
Thanks to the then UK Home Secretary Priti Patel, who made a secret trip to Israel, Israeli field hospitals in occupied territories that were treating the militants that wreaked havoc in Syria. We know that, and then the story leaked, and Patel was forced to resign when the Theresa May government said that it's violated the government's protocols. In any case, thanks to her trip, we know that Israel treated field hospitals. She visited the hospitals. Does that not indicate or suggest to you that Israel is working hand by hand with the militants and the terrorists in Syria?
Yes, I think that's a fair comment. Israel has provided not just medical help, and that was done openly. The jihadis fled across the occupied Golan to Israeli medical centers. But more covertly, of course, the Israelis have been providing weapons, planning, communications, and other assistance to the variety of militias, extremist, fundamentalist militias, which based themselves in Syria and which are now, thankfully, cornered in the northwest corner of Syria. And from there, it's less possible for Israel to provide assistance. Nevertheless, Israel continues to provide propaganda support, diplomatic support. They put pressure on countries like Britain to give support to the jihadis and the people behind them, in the people who control Idlib. So the covert war goes on, with Israel providing assistance in many, many forms to ISIS and other jihadi groups.
Just finally, Peter, as a former ambassador to Syria, you must have seen the vast ethnicities and people of many backgrounds living happily and peacefully side by side, not just in Damascus, but across the country. I've seen it with my own eyes. I don't know if you have. If you have, does that not counter the Western narrative that the Syrian government waged war on its own people?
Well, this claim is totally absurd. It hardly deserves scrutiny. The Syrian government has been trying to pacify areas of Syria that were grabbed with Western covert assistance by jihadi militant groups. And thankfully, it has recovered control over most Syrian territory. I'm quite sure that most Syrian people desire only stability and are grateful to the government for having pacified their regions. And it speaks volumes that most of the internal refugees in Syria have been people fleeing not from the government areas, but from the jihadi-controlled areas into places like Latakia, which is still surrounded by refugee camps, people who come from Idlib and other jihadi-infested areas.
Okay, Peter, thank you very much indeed for that. Peter Ford is the former British ambassador to Syria, joining us live from the British city of Manchester.